Black Waitress's daughter went on a blind date in mud, the billionaire's son left her stunned. The night the sky split open and poured its anger over the city, Maya Thompson was standing in front of a cracked mirror, wondering if dignity could survive a rainstorm. Her mother's voice floated in from the tiny kitchen of their apartment above Lennox Diner. "Baby, you don't have to go if the weather's that bad." Maya forced a smile at her reflection. "It's just rain, Mama." But it wasn't just rain. It was the kind of storm that turned sidewalks into rivers and bus stops into islands. The kind of storm that tested shoes, makeup, and confidence all at once. Maya was the daughter of Clarissa Thompson, a waitress who had worked double shifts at Lennox Diner for 18 years in downtown Atlanta. Clarissa knew every regular by name, every coffee order by heart. She had raised Maya on tips and overtime, on grit and grace. And tonight, Maya was going on a blind date. Her friend Jasmine had set it up. "He's different," Jasmine had insisted. "Polite, educated, from a good family." Maya didn't ask what good family meant. In her world, a good family was one that stayed together and showed up when things got hard. She slipped on her only pair of heels, black, slightly scuffed, and grabbed her umbrella. The restaurant for the date was across town in Buckhead, one of those places with soft lighting and menu items you couldn't pronounce. By the time she stepped off the bus, the storm had grown wild. Thunder cracked like a warning. The street in front of the restaurant had become a shallow lake of brown water. She hesitated. Across the flooded street, the restaurant glowed warmly, golden lights, valet attendants in neat uniforms, couples stepping out of luxury cars. Then she saw him. A tall figure in a navy suit stood under the awning, scanning the street. Even from a distance, she could see he was searching for someone. For her. Maya took a breath and stepped forward. Her heel sank into mud. Not just a little, her entire foot slid sideways. Cold, gritty water splashed up her legs. She gasped as she struggled to keep her balance, but the second heel betrayed her too. In one humiliating second, Maya Thompson, the hard-working waitress's daughter who had studied on scholarships and worked part-time at a bookstore, was standing ankle-deep in muddy water, dress soaked, pride slipping away with the current. A car sped past, splashing her again. Under the awning, the tall man stiffened. Maya wished the ground would swallow her whole. She bent down to pull her shoe free, but it was stuck. Her fingers were already shaking from the cold. She felt every pair of eyes from the restaurant entrance turn toward her. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of turning away, instead of checking his watch or retreating inside, the man in the navy suit ran toward her. Not carefully, not with hesitation, he ran straight into the mud. "Maya," he called out. She looked up, stunned. Yes, he didn't stop to assess the damage to his polished leather shoes. He stepped into the water beside her and crouched down. "Hold on," he said gently. Before she could protest, he reached down and freed her heel from the suction of the mud. His expensive cuff brushed the dirty water. He didn't seem to notice. "I am so sorry," Maya whispered, mortified. This is not how I imagined." "Hey," he interrupted softly. "It's just mud. Just mud. No disgust. No irritation." He slipped off his own shoes and handed them to her. "Put these on. They'll be big, but at least they're dry." "What? No, I can't." "You can. I insist." People were definitely watching now. The valet attendants looked confused. A couple under the awning stared openly. Maya's heart pounded. "You'll ruin your socks." He smiled. "I've ruined worse things." She didn't understand what that meant, but something about his tone made her look at him more closely. His expression wasn't pitying. It wasn't amused. It was steady. She slipped into his shoes. They were too large, but warm. "I'm Ethan," he said, extending a muddy hand. She laughed softly before shaking it. "Maya, nice to finally meet you." "You too," she said, still trying to process what was happening. They walked back toward the restaurant together, him barefoot, her in his shoes. At the entrance, the host blinked in confusion. "Sir, it's fine," Ethan said calmly. "We'll need a towel." Only when they were seated inside, wrapped in warmth and soft music, did Maya begin to notice the whispers. A man at the next table leaned toward his companion. "Isn't that Ethan Carter?" The name hovered in the air. Carter. Maya had heard that name before. Carter Industries. Real estate. Tech investments. Philanthropy galas covered by local news. She looked at him carefully now. "You're Ethan Carter." He sighed slightly. "Yes. As in, Carter Industries." He nodded once, almost reluctantly. "You're the billionaire's son." He tilted his head. "Technically, my father is the billionaire." Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks that had nothing to do with the restaurant's temperature. Jasmine hadn't mentioned that part. You didn't think that was important? She asked quietly. I was hoping it wouldn't be, he replied. The waiter approached cautiously, clearly recognizing him. Mr. Carter, welcome back. Thank you, Ethan said. But tonight I'm just Ethan. The waiter nodded and left. Maya's thoughts raced. She imagined her mother at the diner, wiping tables under flickering lights. She imagined Clarissa's hands, rough from years of scrubbing plates. And here she was, sitting across from someone who probably had never worried about rent. I should go, she said suddenly. Ethan's brow furrowed. Why? This is different. Different doesn't have to mean wrong. She studied his face, searching for arrogance, for condescension. She found none. Instead, she saw something else, something almost tired. Do you always run into mud for strangers? She asked. You're not a stranger. We just met. He gave a small smile. You could have turned around when the storm started. You didn't. That's not the same. It tells me something about you. And what's that? That you show up. The words landed somewhere deep inside her. They ordered dinner. Conversation began cautiously. School, books, favorite music. Maya told him about studying literature at Georgia State, about working weekends at a bookstore to help her mom. She admitted she loved old poetry and cheap horror movies. Ethan listened like it mattered. When she asked about him, he surprised her again. I studied business because it was expected, he said. But I spend most of my time working with our foundation. What kind of work? Affordable housing, education grants. We're trying to fix some of the damage. Damage, he looked down at his glass. Developments that displaced families. Projects that prioritized profit over people. My father built an empire. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't crush anyone. Maya's fork paused midair. My mom almost lost her apartment 5 years ago, she said quietly. New owners doubled the rent. We barely held on. Ethan's jaw tightened. What was the company? She told him. He went still. That's one of ours, he admitted. The words hung heavy between them. Maya leaned back slowly. So while my mom was working triple shifts to keep a roof over our heads, your company was raising prices. I know, he said softly. I didn't, then, but I do now. Anger flickered in her chest, but it wasn't simple anger. It was complicated, tangled with the memory of him standing barefoot in mud. I can't change what happened, he continued. But I can change what happens next. And how do you plan to do that? By listening, by showing up. She almost laughed at the echo of his earlier words. Dinner continued, but something had shifted. The conversation deepened. He told her about boardroom battles, about arguing with executives twice his age. About pushing for rent caps and community partnerships. You fight your own people? She asked. Sometimes, he admitted. It's not popular. Why did it? He met her gaze steadily. Because no one should lose their home so someone else can build a taller one. The storm outside finally began to quiet. When they finished eating, Maya insisted on paying for her portion. Ethan didn't argue. He simply nodded. As they stepped outside, the street was still wet but no longer flooded. The air smelled fresh, clean. He handed her back her heels, now wiped dry. I owe you an apology, he said suddenly. For what? For not telling you who I was. You were afraid I wouldn't come. I was afraid you would see a last name instead of a person. She considered that. Tonight, she said slowly, I saw a man who stepped into mud without thinking about his suit. He smiled faintly. It was a good suit. She laughed. They walked toward the bus stop together. You don't have to take the bus, he said gently. I can call a car. I know, she replied. But this is how I get home. He didn't push. At the bus stop, she turned to him. If we do this again, no secrets. No secrets, he agreed. The bus headlights appeared in the distance. Ethan, yes, you left me stunned tonight. He raised an eyebrow. Because of the mud. Because you didn't treat me like something that needed saving. The bus pulled up with a hiss. She stepped on, then looked back. He was standing there in damp socks, watching her go, not with ownership, not with expectation. Just hope. As the bus pulled away, Maya felt something shift inside her. Not because she had met a billionaire's son. But because, in the middle of a storm, someone had chosen to stand beside her instead of staying dry. And somewhere across the city, a waitress named Clarissa Thompson wiped down a counter, unaware that the rain had just changed her daughter's life in ways neither of them could yet understand.